Are we really going to record an episode right now?
Wait, what episode are we on? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode. Yes, I'm doing the intro because Adam is not joining us for this episode. It's a little bit more of a girly topic, but I'm joined by Lena. Lena, you want to give salam?
Assalamu alaikum everyone. It's an honor to be back.
Ahla wa sahla. We love having you. So today, it's going to be more of like a discussion, less of more like our previous episodes are more like little bits of knowledge, to kind of like, and like we said, like in our intro episode, like the really, really old one, we're trying to like have little heart softeners, really short ones, so they affect us. This one's going to be a little bit more of a discussion. It'll still be a benefit, but maybe if you're driving to school or you're studying, put this in the background, inshallah. So we're going to look at womanhood and how womanhood and the idea of what makes a woman has changed through society. So we're going to start off looking at pre-1950 and post-1950. So pre-1950, and I did an episode about this, it's called Queens of Islam. We talked about like women's rights, and we mainly focused about hijab, but we talked about how pre-1950 there was this ideal image of like what makes a woman. So the woman generally was, sitting at home. She wasn't able to voice her opinion. We're talking non-Islamic, so this is not what Islam said. So the woman would sit at home. She generally had no voice in the relationship. If she spoke out against her husband, she was deemed as like an unhonorable woman. She was not fully like of a woman because she spoke her opinion or spoke up against her husband. When the husband came home, there was expected to be food on the table. She wouldn't do anything. She just had to basically sit at home, take care of the kids, cook and clean, and that was her duty. Post-1950, there was the rise of the idea that the woman, the concept of what makes a woman successful changed. So there was the rise of the idea that a woman needs to be financially stable, that she should go out and get a job, she should get an education, and the notion was less of her family, more of herself. So it's more of a selfish notion that you got to put yourself first, you got to take care of yourself, less of your kids, you should stand up against your husband, put yourself first, that you don't need to have a man in your life to be successful. You should be able to stand on your own 2 feet without a man. And it was kind of a notion that made women feel guilty if they were a woman who stayed home and took care of their kids and their husbands. Now, I mentioned in the beginning, this is un-Islamic. This is not what Islam said. We're talking about general because we live in a society today, and we're going to talk about what society says. And we talked a lot about what Islam says. We know like Islam, and we talked about how we as Muslims, we're not allowed to be feminists because feminism is a sect that goes against the teachings of Islam. It goes for the equality of the sexes, but in Islam we go for justice, not equality. So like this is it. Like before Islam, like the pre-1950, when the woman didn't have any rights, quote unquote, like she had to sit at home, obey her husband, obey her kids, and take care of the household. This was not what Islam said. Islam was actually the first religion that gave women. Feminism stemmed from women not having rights. There was actually at a time when men used to say that women were demons, that they had no soul. So women had to unite together and turn to a notion to gain their rights, and that was Islam. So we can't belittle, or not Islam, I mean feminism. We can't belittle ourselves and say we're feminists or turn to another practice because like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already gave us those rights and we can't turn to something else to get them. So what they had pre-1950, that's like we said, un-Islamic again. So before people start bashing in the comments or whatever, it's pre-Islam, and we're not saying that it was right, and we're not saying what after came right as well. We're going to look at the balance. Do you want to mention anything? You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. So how has this changed? So we said the main point that comes after is that the notion that a woman should be successful. So we have a working woman. So a woman should go out and work, forget about her house life. She needs to put herself first, her education first. This creates more of a fitna for men because it creates a competition between men and women in the workplace. And this is a big thing that's talked about in feminism, like equality of the sexes in wages, like how come men get paid more than women. The woman, and honestly, if you talk to any field that's competitive, I think the woman usually is having a harder time because sadly she's seen as Like, I'm gonna be raw in this episode, guys, so no one take this physically, like personally. But in the end, she's seen as a sex object in work, even. Like, if you, for example, if you go to an official, like, a law office, okay? Lawyers have a specific dress code. You know, like, the typical lawyers, like, the pencil skirt or, like, the tight pants and the shirt. So a man will never look at her the same. Even if has this right to the education, she has this high education, the man will never look at her. So it places more stress on the woman, that she has to prove herself, she has to stand up for herself, and it just creates a competition between men and women in the workplace. Also, the notion that she must have a degree, that the strength of the woman is based on her degree. If she doesn't have a degree, she's not seen as someone who's worthy, she's not seen as someone who has the right to respect. A woman who doesn't have a degree, as in this day and age, you don't respect her, she doesn't deserve your respect. Also, it's seen if a woman decides to get married young. Right now, like, if you look at the average age when people are getting married, it's late 20s, like 27, 28, 29, 30, for women especially. And it's seen that if a woman were to get married young, she's been deprived of her childhood. Why is she being forced in? يعني they say ليحة على الزواج ليحة على التعتير. That's what they always say. Like, you still have so much time. Like, why do you want to put yourself into this? They see marriage as they say it's تعتير. It's like torture. Why do you want to torture yourself so young? Why, like, if a woman marries off her daughter young, oh ليش عملتي فيها? Like, you got, like, why'd you force her into this? Like, you took away her, what's it called, her, like, livelihood and her childhood. And the society right now has made the woman turn against her man. It's made the woman see her man as something that's evil. He's making you cook, he's making you clean, he's making you take care of the house. Why doesn't he do anything? He's making you wear hijab, and, like, he's oppressing you. It's also took in the notion of that a man is not allowed to have this manhood. He's not allowed to feel emotions. And, like, maybe, like, in Islam, like, we know polygamy is allowed in Islam, even though right now, like, there's not everyone, I guess, is like their polygamy is the option for them, but our society has made it like if someone marries more than one wife, it's like, what's going on? Like, it's not even something that's looked upon anymore. It's like, what are you doing? Also, it's made the marriage supposed to be something that's equal. Like, the man and the woman in the marriage are supposed to be equal. Like, in the society right now, like, he's not over you. Like, he doesn't have the right to tell you not to do something. Like, if you leave the house and he tells you can't leave and you listen to him, you're simping for him. Like, why are you listening to what he's saying? You throw a fit. You have to have your own say. Like, you should, like, this is the notion. It's also taken away from the concept that, like, it's okay for a woman to be in a mixing gathering. Why is your husband oppressing you and telling you you can't go to somewhere where there's other men, or you can't wear something that's tight, like, if a man's gonna see you? Like, the jealousy, it's made men be like that. Like, they say you're simping for your wife if you're jealous for her. Like, why do you care what she's wearing? So it's put this notion. So that's basically the main concepts, is that we said that she must have a degree, she must be working. It's made this evil notion towards the man. It's taken away from it's made the marriage more of a they're equal, rather than put the legislation of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. It's taken away from it's made the wife seem like put more importance on her work and less on her kids.
Exactly.
And they're taking her out of the house, putting her more in the workforce, seeing that that's what she's independent. You're only a woman when you've become financially stable. You're only a woman when you have a degree and you're able to stand on your feet. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if you sit at home and you're
like a failure.
If you're a housewife, you're basically a failure. Mm-hmm. That's the society, that's the notion that we have today. And we're here to combat that.
Exactly.
Inshallah. So we're going to go through all of the main concepts that I mentioned and dissect each one. So we're going to start off with marrying young. So like we said, right now, it's like if a woman gets married young, or even if a man gets married young, they're looked down upon. Like, why are you wasting your childhood? Why are you
like you have your whole life ahead of you?
Why would you get married now? Yeah. Exactly. And, like, we know that, like, it's not like, for example, like, first of all, I want to establish this principle that I think we need to understand. Marriage has no age. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say by this age you have to get married, or by this age you can't get married. There's legislations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the Deen. The minute they're different for the man and the woman. The minute the man meets these legislations, he's prepared for marriage, and the minute the woman meets these legislations, he's prepared. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He just says for the man, يا معشر الشباب من صاء منكم الباءة فليتزوج. So it's a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad says, like, oh men, when you have the ba'a, means you're financially stable. When you're able to provide for the woman, you're able to take care of the household, be the man of the house, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, okay, you're now ready for marriage. Of course, we're not undermining, like, your religion, your responsibility, your character. This all is very important as well. And for the woman, it's that the woman fixes herself up. You have to understand the responsibility comes with marriage. Like, you have to take care of your husband. You have to take care of your kids in the future, inshallah. So it's like, it's more personalized. And I hate when people are like, oh, if a girl gets married at like 18 or 19, or she gets married at 30, they're like, oh, she was too young or too old.
It has nothing to do with age.
Who gave anyone the right to set an age that marriage is normal at? Everyone has a specific case, and we need to respect everyone's choice. And if they came in line with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated, or like notion to what makes a marriage ready, then no one else should have a right to say anything else.
Exactly. Everyone's on their own path, and they're on different levels of like their iman or their religion and whatnot. So you can't say one person, heck, they're 18, they're ready for marriage, and like there could be two 18-year-olds, one perfect, they're financially stable, they have a great mindset about the deen and whatnot, and he's ready, and the other one could be the complete opposite, and they're not ready. And if a lot of people say like it's sunnah to get married young, just like the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Marriage is a sunnah as well. Like, there's a lot of barakah that comes with it. You know, like the hadith that says, like, they say the hadith in and of itself is not true, but the meaning is true, that like marriage completes half your deen. Because there's so much that you're saved from that's haram, like when you get married. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he shares the ayah about marriage, he says like litaskunu ilayha, like it's supposed to bring a sort of sukan, is like when you live together, or like when you cover each other's faults, like you feel like confident, you feel like comfortable with each other. That's what marriage is supposed to be like.
Okay, Mira, so what do you think about young kids, like they're teenagers, 15, 16, 17, and they're getting married at this age to make it halal, so they don't want to fall into zina or anything, so they're getting married at this age? So what would you say about that?
So it's more of like a halal way to date, which I know that's like a big problem, and like I'm no sheikh, and like we're not a sheikh, so we're not going to give a fatwa, but I'll give my opinion on it. And like we said, there's no age to marriage. So like if someone is actually fine, like they're ready for marriage, and like they're responsible, and like their parents think that they're ready, and they're willing, their dads are willing to pitch in and, you know, take care of the wife, because like the man who's 15 is not going to be able to provide for his wife, like so be it. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I think there was one time like a man who came to him, and he told him that he wants to get married, but he's not ready, like he's not financially ready. He told him that you should fast. And like we know that like it's hard, like right now we live in a day and age where zina is so widespread, and like it's fitnas all around us, and fawahish is all around us, but we can't just resort to shortcuts of making a halal relationship that usually after 2 or 3 years they end up in divorce, because it was just a way to have a basically halal relationship. Like they weren't ready for the relationship, or like they were too young and it wouldn't work out anyways when they got older. So like resorting to fasting is like what the Prophet ﷺ told us. And I even heard like one sheikh was saying, like he used to live in an Arab country. The minute he moved to the States, he would fast every day, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, for like the best fast is the fasting of Prophet Dawood. And the fasting of Prophet Dawood was every other day. But this sheikh took it even more. He fasted every day. Like that's how much of a need he saw to fast, to protect himself from that fawahisha. So like I'm not saying that maybe there are some 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, even though I think it's a very rare situation that they're ready, prepared for marriage. Like the woman has the mindset and the responsibility, and the man has the maturity as well. But parents, like they want to protect their kids as much as they can from the haram. But my dad always used to say this, like if you didn't raise your kid from when they were young on a halal foundation, and then when they started falling into haram you blame them for it, that's on you. And like we're going to talk about this, how like the mom and the parents have responsibility to raise their kids right. You should have set that foundation before. And like of course sometimes like parents call and their kids don't listen, like Prophet Nuh, for example, like his son didn't amen in the end. That's like from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I think that should be a last resort, maybe. I don't know. Like, but fasting is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives as a solution as well. So maybe if that doesn't work, then you consider marriage. But like, I think most people would say when a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old get married, they're not ready for marriage. Like, it's just a way to make the relationship halal. And like, jihad and nafs is very honorable. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the reward for jihad in Islam is immaculate. And the reward for patience. We did a whole episode on patience. Like, one of the gates of Jannah is patience. And like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says over and over in the Quran that He's with the patience and He loves those who are patient. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you a chance to have patience and to protect yourself, and you're turning away. You're saying, I'm going to take an easy shortcut. Or like, one of the 8 groups of people under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day where there's no shade but His shade is a man or a woman who was called to zina and they refused. So fighting your desires, like if someone comes up to you, it's hard, especially because of the day that we live in today, but like you have to try. You can't, like, we can't be weak Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbun ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if. Like, you can't just be weak the minute haram comes to you, you lower yourself. That's not, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to be strong and build that through knowledge, and, you know.
Exactly. That's what strengthens us, is our trials and our tribulations that we're going through. but I wanted to ask you, so what is like the significance of fasting? If you're told to fast, if you can't like handle yourself for like lowering your gaze or whatnot, what's that
So like
significance?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, the ayah that fasting, كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a relationship between fasting and taqwa. Because so the way, there's hadith that mentions that the way that shaitan gets to the child of Adam is through their blood. So shaitan like بيوسوس في صدور الناس. You know the ayah that we say like قل أعوذ برب الناس. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the whispering of shaitan through our chests. So shaitan's way to get through you is your blood, like your bloodstream. When you fast, your veins physically shrink. Because when you're not eating and you're not drinking, most of our the blood, usually it's circulation to like digest your food. Digestion and like your whole digestive system, it takes a lot of like energy and like blood. That's where most of your calories, I figured out like 60 to 70% of your calories is based on your normal day-to-day functions. That's where you burn most of it. So when you don't eat and you're not drinking and you're not moving as much, because usually when you're tired, you're generally a little bit weaker, your blood veins physically shrink. So shaitan has less influence. He has less way to get into you. And also, generally, when you're fasting, your desires go down. Like the Prophet Muhammad said, the worst vessel that the child of Adam can fill is their stomach. That's the biggest desire that we have to control, is your stomach. Because when you have more food and more energy, you're able to do more. You're able to think more. You're able to, your desires are higher. But when you take that, you're generally more tired. You don't have, you know what I mean? You use the energy that you have for that which is needed. You're not going to sit and think about a girl or
Exactly.
It just and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So we know that that's something that's like a benefit that will come from it as well.
Exactly. And fasting, of course, like it pushes you to do like other righteous acts of worship.
That's
So
true.
like when you're fasting, I feel like you're more inclined to like pick up the Quran and start reading it and like be like adamant on your prayers and whatnot.
You're spending the whole day in worship. Even if you don't do anything else, that whole 16, 17 hours, you were getting hasanat for every single second.
Exactly. That's the longest form of worship you could do is fasting. So
SubhanAllah. Okay, so then the next one that we wanted to talk about was we're going to combine the evil of the man and how wedding is supposed to be a partnership. So we said right now our society, in order to make a woman successful, she has to have a right in the relationship. She has to stand up against her man, and it's even gotten to the point where they may seem the man make him as an evil guy. Why is he telling you not to leave the house? Why are you listening to him? Or you need to be equal in the relationship.
Why does he have a say in what you wear?
Exactly. So before we look at what our opinions or what shaitan might whisper to us and make us think about this topic, I want to mention an ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, أَلَا لَهُ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do I not have the right to create and then put legislations? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created men and he created women. And he understands how men think and he understands how women think. For example, when I tell my brothers sometimes, if you see a girl and you're pissed off at her, you can tell she's annoyed at you by the way that she looks at you. We can read each other through our looks, our eyes. And when I tell my brothers that, they're like, what do you mean? That's how can you understand what a woman feels towards you if you just look at her eyes? I'm like, you just know. I can tell she's pissed off at me, maybe I did something. And men also understand men. Maybe your brother will tell you something and be like, how do you guys you can just read each other. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he put in legislations for women and he put in legislations for men because he knows each gender and how they unite together and how they would be most successful together in the best way, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, so he's the best to tell us. It's if you got an iPhone and you got a Samsung, you can't use the manual for the Samsung on the iPhone and you can't use the manual for the iPhone on the Samsung. It just wouldn't work. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us the manual. We can't use the manual of the society on the relationship that Allah created. We have to use the manual that Allah created on the relationship, the manual that he created for the relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. It's what you said before. If Allah is the one that created us, does he not have the right to authoritate what we do
and tell us how to do it?
Exactly. And in the Quran it states الرجال قوامون على النساء. So the man has a type of authority over a woman. And this isn't to say a man is higher than a woman. بالعكس, Allah created Adam, right? He created Adam first, then he created Hawa from his rib. So there's a
there's a benefit.
Yeah, so from this he created her from the rib, not from his head as in she's higher than him in authority, or from his foot where she's lower than him, but it was from his rib, so they're equal. So they're equal in the sight of Allah, but of course there's different kinds of legislations that a woman has to follow and what a man has to follow.
In the end, Islam is not about equality, it's about justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're not saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the man as better or the woman as better, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created men in a way where they are able to tolerate stress more than women. And they are able to be more like deal with all that. Like I remember I was watching a video when this whole like abortion thing was going on, and this one woman was like, she's not Muslim, and she was saying, you're going to take away my right to have an abortion, but at the same time you want me to go out and provide for myself and get money for myself. She's like, if you want to take away my right for my abortion, then make me a housewife. She literally said that. And I was like, Habibti,
Islam gives you that. Yeah.
Like literally Islam. Like in Islam, a woman does not have to step her foot outside of the house. Even if she's a billionaire, she doesn't have to
spend a penny.
Literally. He has to provide. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed that great responsibility upon him, and all you have to do is just take care of the kids and take care of your wife. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if I were to command anyone to prostrate to anyone, it would have been the wife to her husband. Not because the husband is more noble than her. Like we said, they're seen the same in the sight of Allah, but he just has such a great responsibility. Like generally, anyone who has a responsibility over you, you have to respect them. Like for example, like the president. You're not going to go up to the president and slash the president. Like you're going to talk to him with respect because he has more responsibility over you. Same thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, الرجال قوامون. They have this responsibility over the woman, and because he's caring for you and providing you everything, he has the right that you respect him. But that also, like, women have rights as well, you know, like it's not supposed to be misogynistic.
Exactly.
And the man also, the way that he's supposed to treat the woman is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Like treat them with respect. Exactly. Everything that he has to do is out of respect. And what does the Prophet Muhammad, he says, like خيركم من خير, like the best of you is the best the best of you is those who are best to their wives. So like the Prophet and Islam preaches that men treat women the right way. He respects her, he honors her.
There's so much honor, like,
exactly,
for the woman.
with great with great power comes great responsibility. He has this power, but he's going to be asked about how he responded, how did he deal with you. So it's not equal. Marriage in Islam is not equal. The wife and the husband are not seen equal in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave each one a different role. They're not the same role. And that's what society pushes now. The woman and the man should be equal. It's not like that.
Exactly. And if we don't look at like the Quran or like the hadith about like our morals, like our morals are going to be out of whack. We can't just like kind of like absolve and like into society and like what they think and like accept that mentality or like be a feminist, like be independent, like you don't need a man and whatnot. Like there's rules like for a reason. Like we're like Muslims, we submit to like what Allah made for us, and it's like right there. Like we just need to like follow them and understand them.
Exactly. And that one non-Muslim girl is like an evidence that when you do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like when you follow a way of life that Allah didn't legislate for you, you won't find complete peace. Because that's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like I don't think any woman wants to have that responsibility of being a single mom, caring for all her kids and the money. Like that's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created women. He created men and women differently, and
men can handle that. Men kind can of handle it.
Women,
with
they're
like
just
financial needs.
Yeah, maybe some women can, and like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that legislated for them, like maybe to not get married or like to be a successful woman. Good, because we need those kinds of women. But generally, the default is women are not easy when it comes to stress and stuff like that. You know. Okay. Next.
But of course, yeah, women like they have an honor of like. The job of like let's say a woman wants to stay at home and she wants to like have her job to be like a housewife. That's like an honorable job. You have so much responsibility. Mm-hmm. Like you're taking care of a house that Allah provided you with and your husband, and as well as your kids, which is like the new generation that's like being raised.
Let's talk about that actually. Okay. The one about how woman is made to feel guilty
for staying at home.
If she's a housewife. So like kind of like you were saying, like I remember I had to take a gender studies class in university. And there was this one advertisement that they made about this, like, it was for this perfume, and how this, like, woman, it shows her, like, in the morning, like, preparing breakfast for her husband, then she goes to work, then she comes home and she has to care for kids, and it was saying how she has 3 different jobs. Like, in the morning, her job is to take care of her husband, then in the afternoon, it's to go to work, like, an actual job, and then when she comes home, she has another job to take care of her kids and her house, and she was, like, it was saying how, like, for any job, or mab'arif shu, and it just shows you, like, that's true, like, taking care of a household and taking care of a family is a job in and of itself. And it's not to say that it should just be the woman. And it's not to say that the woman has to be the only one and the man, like, the woman has to be a housewife. Like, the woman can't go out and get an education. And we're going to mention that, like actually, let's talk about it right now. Like, a degree, like we said, the notion is that a woman, if she doesn't have a degree, she's not honorable. But that's not to say that a woman shouldn't get an education.
Exactly.
Like, we're not here telling you guys don't go out and get an education, don't go out and get a job.
Bil'akis, like a woman's right, she should be getting an education.
Exactly.
Education is power.
And you know the first like hospital that was opened was by a Muslim woman. Like, Muslim women have made a difference in this world, and we need to continue that. We need to look at the Sahaba and the wives of the Prophet. They were successful. Like Sayyidina Aisha, she related the most amount of ahadith. She was successful. People would come learn from her. She was a teacher, but in a way that was respectful. But she still didn't neglect her family and her rights of her husband, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and like her kids. It's just a balance. And that's what we're trying to say. We're not trying to, like, society pushes now, you have to take yourself first. Be selfish. Don't care about your kids. And our fikra, it's just to take away, like, when the mom is not in the household is never the same. Like, my mom, once, like, she traveled, she left me and my brothers and my dad. I had to take up her role. If I didn't, wallah, the house, it's not the same without a mom. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created women in a way they have rahmah. And just to honor you even more, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, I took from my name Ar-Rahman and I gave it to the Rahim, which is what's in the woman. Like, women are an honor in Islam. Like, they create nations, they unite families, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that honor. And what does the Prophet Muhammad, he says, a woman who fasts her 5 daily prayers, fasts Ramadan, or prays her 5 daily prayers, fasts Ramadan, prays zakat, obeys her husband, and chaste, she gets Jannah for doing that. Like, it's so, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored women in that aspect, but you also, like what we're trying to say is, like, you have to balance it, okay? Yeah. Like, if you want to be a woman that goes out and gets an education and gets a job, then you also have to understand that that has to be balanced with your kids.
Exactly.
You know? Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't force you to have kids. It's not an obligation. If you don't have kids, it's okay, even though the Prophet Muhammad said, when you're looking for a woman, to marry the woman who's very childbearing, loving and childbearing, because the Prophet wants to have the biggest ummah on the Day of Judgment. But the minute you decide with your husband that you're going to have kids, that is responsibility. And you're going to be asked not only about your kids, but your kids' kids, and some scholars even say your kids' kids' kids.
Exactly.
So 3 generations down. So the notion that the society is right now, but have kids, but then leave them in daycare, or leave them to get raised by a random non-Muslim who doesn't understand our deen. But then when they make a mistake, kif you're gonna fall into zina. When you decide to have a kid, that is your responsibility, and you will be asked
priorities.
About exactly.
You can get an education and like do things out in the world. Let's say you want to be a teacher, want to have a job, but of course, like, you have to always keep your priorities in check. And one of these priorities, like how Allah explains, is your family and taking care of them. And if you don't raise, like, your children are the next generation, like they're this ummah. Like, obviously, how are we going to get this ummah, like, better, how, like, we want it to be, if we don't, like, prioritize and really especially care for our children, if we don't prioritize them.
Like, let's look at the best examples. The Khadija. Sayyidina Khadija was the most successful businesswoman at her time. She used to trade. People would do anything to trade her stuff for her. And
yeah,
people
I want to note about that. Like, Khadija radiallahu anha, she was wealthy, she had a lot of money, and she was able to, let's say, have like a zalime take over that. She could have hired men to like do the business,
100%.
But she decided she wanted to be the one in charge, and she took that upon herself. So like,
she was very successful.
Exactly, that shows like women can still be very successful in society and have children and like work in the work field and whatnot, but like, and be successful like in the deen and like in the society.
So does that mean, Lena, like, I shouldn't go become a doctor? Or like, if I want to become, like, I don't know, if I want to do something that's long, like, what did you think?
As like, just take Sayyidina Khadija radiallahu anha as an example. She literally she went out there, she was independent,
but she balanced it.
That's yeah, of course. Once she had her kids, like, of course, like, let's say you want to go into the healthcare field. First of all, you have to also, like, make sure you set an intention. Like, what's your intention for this? Because at the end of the day, anything we do, like, this life, it's like, we're not living for this dunya. So if we want to get an education for the sake of getting money, or, like, having a status, like a high name, we're not getting anything. You know what I mean? Set your intention. Like, if you want to become a doctor, for example, or work in the healthcare field, be a lawyer, anything like that, like, you can, it's so possible. Like, one of the most highly influential women in Islam did it. But you just, of course, you need to keep your priorities straight. Like, you want to do that, you want to do it with the intention to help the Muslim ummah and help, like, to do better.
Like, that time away from your kids has to be a benefit.
Exactly. Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, like, once you want to, like, settle down, have kids, you rabbi your kids.
Still do it.
And then your kids, like, they're going to go to school, they're going to get their education, you go back to work after that, you know what I mean?
Also, like, Nina and I were talking about this from before. Like, my mom always used to say, like, if there's not enough desire for different things, then, like, the bida'ah, like, I don't know how to explain it in English, but basically it's the concept that, like, if we were all to do the same exact thing, then our society would never function, because we have different roles to be played. Like, we need someone to teach, we need someone to be the healthcare, we need someone to, I don't know how to sew, like everything. And I hate how like we've made a society where we look down upon someone who's not a doctor, or we look down upon someone who's not an engineer, or like,
Exactly.
you know, like if
each one has their own role
she's just
they're
a
playing.
teacher, she's just like
Or she's
a
just stay-at-home
housewife.
wife, yeah.
Everyone has a role to play in the society, and we can't belittle anyone's role. So if, like, for example, if you're a sister out here and you're listening to this, if you're considering like, how am I going to go to medical school, or how am I going to become a lawyer, or anything that is going to take time and to study, and maybe even time away from your family, just the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put this inclination for it in your heart is a sign. Because I'll talk about myself, for example. I can never imagine myself going to med school. I just like, that's not a passion of mine. I'm passionate for nutrition. And that's, inshallah, what I'm going to study, and I'm going to make a difference in the world through that. Even if that means I'm a stay-at-home wife. I can still use my degree to benefit other people. But I just know I can't. Like, I know, Lena, for example, that's something that you're considering. That's something that you're passionate about. Just the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it in you and not in me means that you're capable of doing it. Allah didn't, like, Allah knows. Like we said, He didn't put that inclination in me. And we need Muslim female doctors. We need Muslim female attorneys. When we have a problem, I need to, like, for example, we need Muslim OBGs out there. Like, if I have a question about being pregnant and fasting, a non-Muslim isn't going to understand my question the same way a Muslim OBG is going to understand it. If I have a question about talaq, about getting a divorce in Allah, but like in the state of US, how am I going to talk to a lawyer and be like, oh, well, I actually can't take this much of my husband's money, like I have to base it off the legislation of what my religion says. Or like when you want to set like a will, you have to do it based on what the Deen says. How are you going to talk to someone who doesn't understand your religion? We need Muslims in everything. And that's why they're trying to distract us. They're trying to distract us away from being successful and make us focus on stupid things, because they know that Islam is the fastest growing religion, and they know that Islam is going to be a strong religion. They're trying to distract women with how she looks, how many guys she can get, how much attention she can get, away from raising a successful ummah. Like, we women don't understand that your womb is about to carry kids who might be the next sheikh, who might be the next da'i. You don't know what kind of effect your kids will have on the future generations. And like, we need to understand this honor and to balance that out. And I can't stress enough how much your future man will play into that. Like, for example, Lena, if you want to go to the med field, you can still have kids. And I'm willing to babysit your kids whenever. But
which is exactly why we all have different roles in the society.
Exactly. I will be that housewife who teaches your kids about eating healthy and also teaches your kid Quran. Like, we need to have that balance. Well, at the same time, you'll be my doctor. You'll be my kids' doctors, inshallah, as well. And not just that, when you find a man who has the same morals as you and has the same understanding, who from the straight off, like from the bat, is respectful of your decision to go to the med school or like to become a doctor, then it becomes a partnership, which is what we said. Like, even though we said the religion is not, like, the marriage is not supposed to be a partnership, you're not supposed to be equal, but we said equal in the sense that the man is supposed to have an authority, not in the sense where you're able to split stuff. Like, and we were talking about this from before. Aisha was once asked, radiallahu anha, how was the Prophet ﷺ when he was at home? You want to mention it?
Yeah, and mind you, the Prophet ﷺ, he was like the busiest man on this earth. Like, if you think you're busy, like,
do a day in the life of the Prophet.
Yeah, he was
Wallah.
so busy, sallallahu. And when she was asked, Aisha, radiallahu anha, about like what he did when he was home, like, she would say, like, she would help out. He would help out in the house, like, after a long day. Like, when most men who like come home from work
put up their feet.
Yeah, they put up their feet. Like, they let their wife do whatever. But like, he comes home, his job doesn't end, because his job also is to make his wife happy. And as Mira mentioned earlier, the best of you is the best of their wives. Yeah. So like, if you're gonna like help out, like, you're a rijal, like, you're actually,
and you're getting so much reward for doing all that. But the Prophet, who had like, he was like a leader, he was spreading Islam, people would come up to him and ask him for help, and he would never say no to anyone. Like, one time a woman literally came in, she said, I need your help. He stayed with her the whole day until he fulfilled what she needed help with. Like, the Prophet was the busiest man, but he still had time for his family. And so no man who, like, even if he's a doctor or an attorney, he, like, if he comes and gives you this, like, talk where he's like, oh, I don't have time to help you and the kids,
then you're not a priority.
That's not a man. Yeah. That's not a man. Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the best man, and he was able to do that. And he had more than what your man is going to have on his plate. So when you find a man who understands this, you'll be able to split it up. Like, maybe you work 3 days a week and he works 3 days a week as well, or whatever. Like, if you both are very successful, then those other days, the other one's able to take care of the kids, you know? Like, we just have to understand, basically, the main message that Lena and I are trying to get away. women, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the right to be successful. We look at Sittna Khadija, we look at Sittna Aisha. Go learn about women in Islam, because there's no other religion that honors and makes and brings about successful women like the religion of Islam. Islam gave you your rights. You don't need to turn to anything else. You don't need to listen to this random talk that's based off of desires and shaitan that the society tells you. But there's also a great izzah, there's also a great responsibility and honor that comes with raising kids and listening to your husband, listening to that typical Islamic household. They're trying to break that down to make us unsuccessful, but we can't listen to that.
We can't be brainwashed by the societal perspective or ideas of what a woman should and shouldn't do. Because Allah gives it straight out, and He gives examples, like live examples of people who lived back in the Prophet ﷺ's time, of like how they had their life and what they did and how they were successful and what they prioritized. We have it here. We just need to learn about it and follow it.
100%. So for all my girls out there, go out, get your education, become smart and become successful, but not at the expense of your family and not at the expense of your kids in specific. Like Lena and I were saying, if you are the type of woman who you have a very strong passion towards making a difference in this world, which is very important, because maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is choosing you to make a difference, and they consider it a sadaqah jariyah. Like if you become if you have an ambition to become a scientist and you discover something new, that's a sadaqah jariyah for you. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is choosing you to make a difference in this world in one way. Like maybe your difference is not to raise strong Muslims, but your difference is to bring something about that strong Muslims can use. So everyone has a role, but with all due respect, if you think your role is to focus more on work, don't have kids. Don't leave this amana that you'll be asked about on the Day of Judgment to the side. The minute you and your husband decide to have a kid or to have kids, you have to understand that is responsibility. Your household, the minute you decide to get married, you have to understand that your husband, and same thing for all the brothers out there that are listening, you have to understand that your future wife and your future kids are a responsibility. So we can't play this image of marriage and family household as something so simple and so lightly. No, it's a trust. It's a very important, and it brings about a lot of benefit and peace and comfort, but you have to be up for it. If you don't think you're ready for it, then simply just don't do it, or learn about it before you do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. And also at the end of the day, whatever you want to do in your life, keep perspective that this dunya, of course, is a test. Allah put in these rules for us for a reason, and if we follow them while still pursuing our dreams and our ambitions, Allah will make it easy for us. Just make that intention of what you want to do and how you want to do it, while keeping the priorities that Allah emphasizes that you have to keep in check. And inshallah, Allah's going to give you khair and barakah in what you want to do.
100%. When you do something for the sake of Allah, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you all the way. If it's something that's halal and pleasing to Allah, Allah will benefit. Like you're saying, if you go out and become a doctor and your intention is to help the Muslim ummah, don't ever think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't make you successful or won't help you. And if He doesn't make you successful in that, that's a sign that maybe that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and also remember, let's say you want to be a stay-at-home wife, for example, and you're taking this job as let's say you don't have kids right now, you're taking it lightly, my life is just to relax, my husband does all the hard work, I could just chill at home, do these casually just chill and relax. Our life wasn't for that either. We're not supposed to just be relaxed and just do whatever with no benefit for our akhirah or this world. If we're at home, you gotta do something with your time. You gotta get an education, learn about the Deen, figure out ways where you can, if you're at home, figure out ways where you can spread Islam or give da'wah or just be a better version of yourself. Just because you get married and you have that opportunity to stay at home, which is okay, yeah. Don't take it for granted or take it to waste.
100%. They say that this dunya is the prison of the believers, because we'll never be able to fully find peace and comfort in the sense that we want to be with Allah, we want to be in Jannah with all the prophets and the good people, but also we need to do stuff with our lives. We've gotten into a society where it's easy for you to just sit at home and not do anything. We can't waste our time.
Exactly.
This
is not our final destination.
Exactly. One of the companions, they were talking and they were if I were to die right now, the angel of death would come right now, there's no act of worship I could add. I'm just maxed out. Every single second of my day is filled with an act of worship. I can't put anything else into it. So I could die right now. But I don't think any of us feel comfortable to say that. If the angel of death were to come to you right now, do you feel confident with how your life is? And we right now we think we're so busy, but we're not. Wallahi, we're not. We still don't have all of this responsibility. And when you do get that responsibility, when you have it on a pure intention, you're just rolling in reward for changing your kid's diaper, like literally, because you're trying to raise a Muslim ummah, you're trying to make a difference in this world. We have to be strong. We have to like get away from what society has told us. And for all the girls out there and even the guys out there, learn about what Islam tells you, about the rights that Islam gives to women and the rights that Islam gives to men. Because when you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram and like you're seeing what people are bashing about Islam, if you don't know what Islam truly says, shaitan will come and get to you and you might start believing what they're saying.
Exactly. You need that strong foundation.
Inna Deena inda Allahi al-Islam. There's no other religion to Allah except for Islam. And that is the right religion.
And now is the time.
It's perfect.
Now is the time to like explore that.
100%. Anjad, like honestly, like Islam, alhamdulillah, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us. Some people don't even have the guidance, or if they're reverts and it's hard for them. Use this honor and this izzah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you and make a difference in this world. I was listening to one guy who was saying, don't let your presence and your absence in this world be the same. Your presence on this world and your absence has to be different. Like if I leave this world, people have to know I left. Like if I die one day and people don't know, like maybe I'm on an island, I went on vacation, people have to know that I died because I had to be doing some sort of benefit to the society. You don't want your life and your death to be the same. You want to make a difference.
Exactly. We just need to, whatever we do in our life, whether it's like staying at home, working, whatever, as long as we keep perspective and understand like everything that we're going through, like it's just a test, and
100%.
we're not living for this dunya. So why not, if we're not living for this forever, like why not follow the legislations that Allah puts in place and the priorities that Allah wants for us to have?
And all of that is through intention. You made such a great point, Lena. Like anything that you do can be a worship and you could be making that difference. Whether you go out and you become a doctor, or you become a doctor and a wife, or you become just a housewife, whatever it is that you should decide to do, there's a benefit in it.
Exactly.
And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to do it. So like any girl out there who's been like maybe worried about making a decision to go to med school or law school or I don't know, any school, pray istikhara, set the intention and just see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let it work out for you.
Exactly.
Inshallah. Anything else you want to add?
That was good.
That's it for this episode. We hope, inshallah, we stirred up some positive, good feelings. But we'll see you guys on the next one. Salam.
Assalamu alaikum.